Making a choice is just not the same as it used to be. On any given day, each of us makes dozens, perhaps hundreds of decisions. On the majority of the days in my life, I'm not even able to recall most of them. They've been so mundane. Before the pandemic, each of these decisions used to be so very inconsequential. I did not even give them a second thought. Do I cook dinner tonight or go out to a restaurant? What do I need to stop and pick up on my way home? Which grocery store should I go to? Which playground should I take my daughter to this afternoon? Should I mow the lawn today or tomorrow? There were, and still are for all of us, of course, decisions that are not in this category, the really big ones, choices that require careful deliberation and have far-reaching impact. These big decisions have the power to stick with us and may even continue to haunt us long after we've made them. For many of us, for me at least, these big decisions have been spaced out across weeks, months, or even years, far enough apart that when they come, we are typically able to take the time and energy we need to bring the appropriate tools to bear in order to make the choice that feels correct. During the past 6 months, all of this has changed. Every decision is weighty. Every choice that each of us makes could have dire consequences to our lives, to our health or that of others around us, our ability to earn an income, our mental and spiritual health, our well-being. And this includes the type of decisions that prior to the pandemic were unfathomable to us. Is it safe to send our child back to school in the fall? Is it dangerous for me to sit on my son's sofa to read a book to my grandchild? How do I learn to cut my own hair? Every single decision feels weighty, and every single action and even breath we take in the past 6 months has felt like it involves making a decision. Take a moment and let that sink in. Feel it. We've all been living under this crushing weight of constant decision-making for months, and it is real. It is universal. None of us, no one of us is alone in feeling its impact. We could certainly speak together this morning about decision fatigue, a term coined in 2010 by psychology professor Roy Baumeister that refers to, quote, the deteriorating quality of decisions made by an individual after a long session of decision-making as a result of the mental energy depletion that session of decision-making takes. Instead, I want to explore the impact of all of this decision-making and the resulting decision fatigue on our identities. In other words, how has the weight of the pandemic altered the way we might answer the question, where are you right now? Where are you right now? Last week on Rosh Hashanah, we read the story of Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. Both at the beginning and at the end of the narrative, God calls to Abraham by name, and Abraham answers with the word Hineini, here I am. In the middle of the story, too, after Abraham and Isaac have left the rest of the group and begun their ascent up the mountain, Isaac calls to Abraham, Father, and Abraham answers, Hin'ni b'ni, here I am, my son. Why is this word Hineini used in each of these moments? What does its repetition point to in the progression of the narrative? Although he uses the same word, each time Abraham answers Hineini, he is actually in a very different here. I imagine Abraham's first Hineini when God first approaches him as something like, Hineini, I am present and ready for whatever is next. Silly Abraham. When Isaac checks in with his father as the two journey up the mountain, I hear Abraham's Hineini as Hin'ni b'ni. I am present with you, my son, no matter how this turns out. Abraham's final Hineini, as he stands knife in hand above the bound body of his child, is a cry of relief. Hineini, I am here. Please tell me this is all some kind of a terrible mistake, that there is another way out and through. Each Hineini of the Akedah points to a transition or transformation for Abraham. And in the midst of the swirl of transition, Abraham is called to locate himself in that moment rather than get lost in it. The word Hineini is found in only 5 other places, a total of 8 in all of Tanakh, not just the 5 books, the entire compendium. And each time is in the midst of a transitional or transformational moment for a particular character. Isaac realizes that he was tricked into giving his blessing to the unintended son as he responds Hineini to Esau. Joseph sets off with the word Hineini on the journey that transforms him from a naive and conceited boy with the power to interpret dreams into a national figure in Egypt who saves an entire nation from famine. Jacob answers God Hineini on the journey to Egypt to reunite with his long-lost son Joseph. And as he and God renew the divine promise to make of him a great nation. And finally, Moses transforms from a shepherd to a prophet as he responds Hineini to God out of the burning bush. Each of these characters finds themselves in the crucible of transition and uncertainty. And with the word Hineini, here I am, finds the power to be present in the moment. And through this act, this word becomes transformed. And so I call to each of you again, where are you? Where are you in this moment, 6 months into the COVID-19 pandemic, on this Yom Kippur morning, in whatever particular series of decisions are swirling around you, wearing down your defenses, threatening to remake and reshape you in their own image? I ask you not, how are you? Or those questions we get asked a lot. What do things look like for you these days? How are you holding up in all of this? But instead, where are you? Who are you in this moment, and who are you becoming? At the opening of Yom Kippur Musaf, as we enter the heart of our liturgy of the day, the Shliach Tzibor, the prayer leader, chants a peculiar sort of prayer, Hin'ni. It is peculiar because it is personal. It is not recited on behalf of the group. Hin'ni is in the first person, as opposed to the collective plural prayers that follow it. Ashamnu, we have wronged. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, for the sin we have committed before you. Hin'ni he'ani mimas nirash v'nifchad mipachad. Here I am, impoverished in deeds, perturbed and frightened before you. This is a prayer addressed from the person chanting it to God. And it is peculiar because it is public. Hin'ni sounds like it should be a private prayer, but it was clearly composed to be recited or chanted aloud in the presence of the broader public. In this way, Hin'ni is a reminder of our vulnerability. It is a reminder that each of us is a real person, really standing before God, really standing in a transitional moment, really struggling, really digging deep into our personal situations. Hin'ni harkens back to the vulnerability of an Abraham right before and right after nearly sacrificing his son. The vulnerability of Isaac, tricked by those he loves the most. The vulnerability of Joseph, sent to find his brothers in the field, not knowing that they would later sell him to traffickers heading into Egypt. Before they could move forward, they needed to just stop and take it in. And then, after they felt that vulnerability and located themselves within it, they took the next step. I feel that vulnerability as your rabbi and your service leader. Reciting Hineini in this very unique year, practically alone in our sanctuary on Yom Kippur, holding this space and sending this space into all of the spaces in which we are vulnerable to the possibility of technology crashes, and we find ourselves not able to see or hear one another. Reciting prayer after prayer, often without being able to hear the community respond, Amen. That's Hin'ni. Here I am in this unique historical transitional time. Here I am. Here each of us is doing the best we can. Here I am, a person that has been transformed by the strain of the past few months, each weighty decision, and by the weight of the sum total of all of them. Here I am, a person who is still transforming. I stop and find myself. Hineini, here I am. And then I can take the next step. As you hear Hineini, let it remind you of the significance of living in this historic time, about which legions of books, movies, and documentaries will surely be made, about which generations and generations of scholars and just everyday folks after us will try to study and understand. In the midst of the swirl of the unfolding of history, my challenge to each of us is to pause, to locate yourself. Who are you right now? Separate from all that is happening to and around you, separate from the myriad consequences that are outside of your control. Where are you? In this vulnerable time when everything feels uncertain, one thing is certain. You are here. You are somewhere. Just for a moment, stop, take it in, and be present. Hineini, here I am. I am here.